Hello, welcome to the State Tribal Local Plans and Grants Division introductory webinar for geospatial data standards for our Historic Preservation Fund Disaster Grant Program. If you're joining us, it's likely that you are receiving or will receive funding for preservation projects related to damage from Hurricanes Harvey, Irma Maria, Florence Michael, and Yutu. This specific grant project with the CRSurveyor tool, kind of GIS focus, is a collaborative partnership with the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, GIS Inc., our GIS contractor, and our own National Park Service Cultural Resource GIS team. This is just an introductory webinar. As you move further along with the disaster funding, there will be more technical webinars to come, and there will be plenty of time to ask questions. So this is, again, an introductory webinar for grantees that are have existing Harvey Irma Maria grants as part of the HIM disaster program, as we fondly call it, or recently announced funding for Florence, Yutu, and Michael as the FIM disaster program. There's a little bit of rhyming there. So all of the GIS data collected as part of this funding is going to need to meet our National Park Service data sharing standards. And we'll take a moment to go through those in a moment. We also have a data sharing agreement that is designed to help you all meet the standards and package some of the data, the very basic geolocation data you provide to us for FEMA in the event that there's another disaster. And then with the grant programs, we are giving you access to the CRSurveyor app, which has been used for architectural surveys in the past, and as we're rolling it out more, has a disaster component to it as well. And I'll talk about that more momentarily. So part of the existing grant condition, especially if you're one of those HIM states that's already receiving funding from the Historic Preservation Fund, already talks about copies of GIS data produced or collected. And I won't read this through here for you, but there's just kind of this understanding that we want to make sure that data you collect is useful to you, but also matches the standards of data collection that we have established for ourselves. And our Deidre McCarthy, who is the chief of the Cultural Resources GIS team here at the National Park Service, put together these data transfer standards in the hope that it will be easier to share data among all types of groups and collaborators, bureaus, agencies, etc. So if a SHPO wants to send information to us at the State Tribal Local Plans and Grants Division, and that in turn is information that we can send to FEMA, if they are all in these standards, then it should be a really quick and efficient transfer of information. So as I'm talking about that, let's go a little bit further into these spatial data standards. So they were created by the Cultural Resources GIS facility, as I've already mentioned. Just a little bit about them. They are the only group within the National Park Service focused exclusively on cultural resources and the use of GIS and GPS technologies. They work with parks, do inventory management, and intimately involved with all of this. So here, there's this, quote, scary diagram directly from Deidre of what this model is. And you don't have to be afraid. It really isn't as complicated as it looks here. This diagram, as well as a guideline document, are available on the CRGIS website, which there will be a link to momentarily. But basically what you see here is a series of feature level metadata fields. which give us insight as to how the data was collected and entered. We can better explain to who we're sharing with what they're getting and what the appropriate use of that data may be with these standards. We're not interested in your descriptive information. We want to know if your information is sensitive and shouldn't be released to other parties, but these data standards that we're talking about really only apply to documenting the lineage of geographic information. Now, the CRSurveyor tool allows you to link to your inventory information so that you can put information in these standards, connect it to your inventory so that you have the information you want, but we don't need all of that descriptive information. These standards are designed to document the lineage of each point, line, or polygon that may be collected, and that can be easily calculated. So there is support, like I said, for this. You can head to the CRGIS webpage, which is nps.gov/CRGIS. And you can go to the standards information. There's a downloadable guideline document that explains the standards, what they're intended to do, step-by-step instructions. There's also a template geodatabase formatted to our standards, which has all the fields and menus associated with the fields. You can use it as a test. You can actually pull it and start putting your data into our standards already. But the most important thing here is that Deidre McCarthy, again, the chief of the CRGIS facility, is available for technical support, questions, or assistance with any of the data standards. Her information is provided here. And please, if you have any questions or if you need technical support, call or email. They've helped parks, SHPOs, TIPOs, you name it. They're quite qualified over there. So transitioning a little bit away from the standards and more into CRSurveyor, which is going to be the tool that is used to help survey architectural and historic preservation sites at these disaster sites. So Surveyor is adapted from Esri Collector, an app that it's free to download from the Esri store. It's also usually in the App Store, both Microsoft and Apple and Android. So what we've created is a survey tool that collects the descriptive information you want, and the metadata and geographic data is stored and already meets our data transfer standards, and that's what we want. Again, if you want to give us that descriptive information, feel free. It's currently focused on architectural resources and point geography, CRSurveyor is. But it can be set up and tailored to collect whatever you need it to. So our contractor GIS Inc. created this. So this has fields for doing up to an intensive architectural survey if you need them. You can see here what it's going to look like on a phone or tablet. It collects all the information and then syncs it to your AGOL account when reconnecting to the internet. So you see you have this dashboard web application here. And that corresponds with the data that's collected in the field by volunteers, employees, etc. So in this dashboard, which is on the top of the slide here, you can see there's all kinds of statistics. You can see your actual data. But in this dashboard, you can actually edit this data. You can look at it as it comes in. You can spit out these stats into a report. You can bulk fill some of the fields that are required by our data standards. And so it's a handier way to comply with these data standards. And it's a really neat way to see as you collect more and more data, what some of the takeaways from the surveys, whether it's types of damage or, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this is happening in ArcGIS Online. You don't need a GIS staff or person at hand. We're using AGOL, ArcGIS Online to store your data, and this is where you'll be able to download it and the customized collector app, as well as access your dashboard web app. So it's important to stress here that you will need to have an enterprise account on AGOL, which means you need to have a larger business account in order to get that information. It shouldn't cost a ton of money on an annual basis. You can pay as little as $50 to be able to use and store this on AGOL. And many of you may have AGOL enterprise accounts already, so this might not be an issue. The National Alliance for Preservation Commissions is facilitating the storage of the CRSurveyor data. They are the conduit through which you will work to download all of this information, the guide, the apps, the dashboard. So once I'm in AGOL here, you can again, where you can download the dashboard and the actual app used by surveyors. We're going into NAPC's AGOL page. Through the agreement that the State Tribal Local Plans and Grants Division is setting up, we'll be able to set up data sharing more specifically. On this dashboard again, we'll take a little bit of a closer look. You can customize it thematically. You can change the field names to match what's in your inventory, for example. We may have architectural style and you may have style of architecture, for example. These menu values can change, the icons can change, so there really is a lot of customization here with this dashboard. You can add your own map services in so that you can update previous surveys or view old layers. And again, depending on your GIS prowess, or the presence of a GIS professional shouldn't really have bearing on your ability to use these GIS-based applications, CRSurveyor and this dashboard web app. So part of what we've allocated as a portion of our national administrative funding is support to enable GIS Inc. to provide a certain number of hours, depending on the level of expertise of your staff, to make CRSurveyor available to your office and to areas that were affected by the storms. So you're not going to have to figure any of this out on your own. NAPC will be providing resources, administrative guides, serving as a project facilitator and liaison. And GIS Inc., our GIS contractors who helped us create this app, will be sending people and working directly with SHPOs and TIPOs to help launch the application, tailor the application to your individual needs. So this is where the lack of GIS skilled staff, it won't have a bearing because GIS Inc. will be able to come in and with the resources provided by NAPC and GIS Inc., you should be able to leverage the CRSurveyor app in whatever way you are hoping to. Again, with all that data fitting into the data transfer standards that we have provided and created. And so at the end of the day, everybody's happy. As well as NAPC and GIS Inc., again, CRGIS is offering technical assistance as well and is kind of helping to serve as a project facilitator. Again, this CRSurveyor was designed generically, but if you need specifics, let's say if you're a coastal community, GIS Inc. can work with you to do customization. So there really is a lot of support here. We don't want you to feel like we're throwing you into the deep end with this new tool and asking you to, move mountains with it. CRSurveyor has been a long time coming. There's a couple years NAPC and the National Park Service were defining and developing an outline and an agreement with expectations to help meet the needs during development and deployment. So the part of the things that were developed, again, that administrator guide, which really explains the whole process and the application itself. The admin guide steps you through how to change things and how to access things. And so depending on the level of expertise you have, this administrative guide can help you at any stage. It will spell out, some of the very basic things in, entering information or opening the application, but it also has details about customizing the geodatabase and things that may be a little bit more technical, that if you do have GIS staff on hand that can look at this administrative guide and kind of go ham. The last thing is that, like I said at the beginning, we are preparing a disaster module for the application. So again, right now it's mostly been used for architectural surveying, but we are preparing a disaster module for the application. When it's completed, it'll be deployed as part of the partnership, so you'll already get it. This would enable you to collect immediate information that FEMA needs in the event that there is another natural disaster in that area. Lastly, here is the contact information for the chief from the State Tribal Local Plans and Grants Division, Megan Brown, the executive director for National Lands Preservation Commissions, Stephanie Paul, and again, the chief of Cultural Resource GIS Facility, Deidre McCarthy. Please feel free to reach out to these folks, especially Deidre, with the GIS and technical questions or questions about these data transfer standards. If you attended the webinar, you should get a copy of this slide presentation and you should be receiving the administrative guide from NAPC shortly. If not, you're always welcome to email stlpg@nps.gov, and we will happily answer any questions or provide you with any resources that we have available to you. There will be more technical information and webinars coming soon, but we really wanted this to be an overview as to not overwhelm people, but get people excited about what's to come, what already exists, and kind of start the process of familiarizing our grantees with this really neat GIS tool. I want to thank you for joining me today. And like I said, please forward any questions you have to the folks here, or that email, stlpg@nps.gov. Thanks and have a wonderful day.